Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
So this article talks about men now avoiding women in post-Me Too America, or the world, really.
Nobody wants to be accused of rape when nothing actually went bad.
Well, it's funny because there's a new study in the Harvard Business Review, due to be published in the journal Organizational Dynamics, has found that following the Me Too movement, men are significantly more reluctant to interact with their female colleagues at work.
No shit, Sherlock!
A few highlights from the research include 27% of men avoid one-on-one meetings with female coworkers. Yep, that's right. Almost a third of men are terrified to being alone in a room with a woman.
Oh, yeah, because there's no one there to sit here and say, well, no, he didn't say anything inappropriate to her. I'm alone with it. You're alone with her. And she'd be like, oh, he tried touching and caressing my leg. I want him fired.
Yeah. 21% of men said they'd be reluctant to hire women for a job that would require close interaction, such as business travel. 19% of men would be reluctant to hire an attractive woman. It says the data was collected in early 2019 from workers across a wide range of industries, and they asked the same questions, albeit to different people, and with more of a focus on future expectations in early 2018, just as Me Too was in full swing. And depressingly, things have gotten worse. For example, in 2018, 15% of men said they would be more reluctant to hire women for jobs that require close interpersonal interactions, compared to 21% in 2019.
Do you know why?
Well, yeah, it's
because
obvious
of
why.
all the false accusations that are coming out. People being accused wrongly of sexual misconduct or flirtatious habits or whatever, and those are career ruiners. Those are, my wife's going to divorce me because the lady at work said that I tried hitting on her and I didn't. That ends people. That ruins lives.
Well, I think the bigger point here is not just that there's men having to dodge false allegations. It's your fucking pussy-ass HR departments that the second a claim is made, they don't want to discredit it. They're just like, let's just distance ourselves from the person and get rid of them. We don't have to, take into account that due process should be served here, and we should look into it for the sake of their reputation.
Well, yeah, and that's because the Me Too movement is like, believe my story. Whether it's true or not, believe it.
Yeah.
All right, so just merely being accused of something automatically destroys you. And HR departments, they're not, it's like, if you go and you discredit a woman like they did with the chick that, against Kavanaugh when he was trying to get nominated to the Supreme Court. I mean, it ended up being false, but everyone was afraid to admit it that it was false. I mean, some were political reasons, but others were, you can't come out and call a woman a liar. You can't just dismiss it. She says it happened, so it happened. Look at the lacrosse team for Duke University.
Well, it's funny because that is so long ago.
It's so long ago, but it's still relevant.
Predates it.
But it's still relevant. Everyone, chastised these players, and it's ended up, oh, no, there's nothing. There wasn't anything there. It was all a lie. And it's, not saying every case is like that, but I want to say a majority of them probably are. An actual case of sexual assault or rape is being watered down now because of this. And now it's like everything you do to a woman seems like it's going to be considered forced.
Well, it's a very scary prospect that the court of public opinion, which is pro-believe all women, is now somehow influenced the actions of many businesses that are like, oh, we don't want to have to take the time to have to say, oh, well, you were lying. And I don't understand that because the burden of proof is on the prosecution in criminal court. So there should be an equitable standard across the board when allegations are raised that border on stuff that is legal or could get you into trouble and, fired. They should be seeking out all the real knowledge and interviewing witnesses and conducting actual deep, well-handled investigations.
They should.
But they're not. They're just like, oh, my God. And I can speak from it myself where at my old job, I turned in my female direct supervisor for sexual harassment. After I had warned her on 3 separate occasions that the types of conversations she was having were inappropriate. I've talked about this on the show before.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Another aspect is there was another employee involved in all those conversations that had to serve as a witness, albeit begrudgingly, because they were upset that I screwed up the dynamic of our shift by, blowing open the lid on this and telling management. So then, 9 months later, after this direct supervisor got in trouble, the other person involved goes crying about me and jokes that I have made and conversations that we had had. Imagine your best friend at work, because this person was like my closest confidant at work, suddenly flips on you, and it's like they've been taking notes on shit you've been saying, like they've been waiting, just lying in wait to get you in trouble back. And I tried to raise the alarm on that, but like, there's possibly an element of retaliation in this, but unfortunately my boss's boss was like, no, I don't think so. Like, he just dismissed it instantly, that stupid cunt. And I'm like, you're shitting me, right? The person that turned me in not only is exaggerating details and flat out making some up, but also was involved in the sexual harassment situation where I got so-and-so in trouble and then demoted.
Maybe he really liked her.
Well, here's the funny thing is that, I'm a white male and the person that complained about me was a female minority. But they were of this new ilk of management that no matter what you say, they only want to find out what did happen and then punish you for that. They don't want to look at the totality of the circumstances and see, well, wait a minute. Why was she turning him in for this now? Some of the shit she complained I said was 8 months old. And it's like, you let this build up for 8 months?
And they won't even question it, yeah.
Yeah, ironically, I tell them, well, she's making some of this up. And then I gave them dates and times of when other stuff happened that would back my claim that she was exaggerating or making up details. And she's like, well, that conversation never happened. Like, one time she said one of the conversations, I quoted, I'm like, go fucking look on camera. Go look at camera at this time, on this date. You'll see her at the desk talking to me. I bet you could read my lips. And she said, oh, that conversation never happened. And they fucking believed it, because they didn't want to have to go back and look at the cameras and see that she was lying, because they were pissed off at me for getting that other direct supervisor demoted. So then further down the line, after I get ratted out by my closest coworker, who our relationship, by the way, never fucking recovered. I never trusted her again.
I wouldn't.
Jesus Christ. Further down the line, another coworker claimed I said something inappropriate, right? And my boss is like, why are you saying these things? I'm like, hang on. Your first question is, why am I saying that? Not, did I say that? So I'm already guilty before you even talk to me? What does that say about you right now? Because I thought about it for 5 minutes while I'm in his office talking with him. I'm like, hang on a minute. She says that came out of my mouth? Well, yeah. And then she's out on maternity leave right now, so we can't bring her in for a face-to-face questioning to refute any of what she's claiming. Well, I'm not going to do that. Why the fuck not? Well, I'm just trying to handle it now. Okay, well, what you need to realize is that I walked up and said this. I talked about how you have to be careful when naming a baby these days because, you don't want to pick a name that rhymes with something dirty. And she said, what, like penis? I'm like, okay, well, I wasn't going to say that, but yeah, pretty much you get the idea. She went to him and claimed that came out of my mouth. Don't name a baby anything that rhymes with, like, penis. That's the eloquent way that he fucking repeated it. He's paraphrasing. I'm like, that came out of her mouth. And I wholeheartedly expect you to get on the phone right now and tell her I'm saying that. And I promise you, 1,010%, that came out of her mouth and not mine. And how dare you come at me with that, why are you saying this? It's not that I said it.
Weren't they just trying to get rid of you anyways?
Oh, it wasn't to that point yet.
Okay.
Wasn't to that point yet. Funny thing about the chick that turned me in, the coworker, I made an AIDS joke, right? And here's the setup. We had been really making a lot of Ebola jokes in a 2-week period. And I'm like, these Ebola jokes are getting kind of old. I'm going to go old school with it. I made an AIDS joke. And when I said it, she had this really, disgusted look on her face. I'm like, what's wrong? We laugh at Ebola. You can't laugh at AIDS. She's like, well, I had a friend that was raped and she got HIV. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. How am I supposed to know that? I mean, I'm sorry if I offended you, But I was just saying that.
Not like I knew when I was trying to be a complete prick. Come on.
Yeah, I'm like, I laughed about it. And how many times have we joked about other fucking diseases? And then she tells them that I made that joke. And they're like, well, that's sexual harassment. I'm like, how do you figure? Well, you made a joke about her getting AIDS. I'm like, yeah, and? Well, how else does a person get AIDS?
Blood transfusions, sharing needles. I mean, there's a list.
Right. And they're like, well, she said she had a sore throat, and you made a joke that, oh, maybe she got AIDS. I'm like, okay, first off, I shouldn't have to explain that the premise of the joke is ridiculous, because having a sore throat could never just mean that you have AIDS. All right? And furthermore, she said it was a sudden onset of a throat. The reason the joke is funny is because I picked something that it could never be from such a simple fucking symptom. Like, and I shouldn't have to explain why that's funny, because you humorless dicks don't want to admit that anything inappropriate is ever worth a chuckle. But newsflash, we joke like that on our shift.
Oh, you bet your ass that they joke like that too when there's no underlings around.
Well, and then also, every other person on every other shift has a very similar sense of humor. And I'm like, look, correctional officers, we have a dark sense of humor. It's a coping mechanism. And then when my boss types up the findings of fact, and I'm loosely air quoting that, findings of fact, basically his feelings of the outcome of the investigation, all the things I said, you know, suddenly the words sexual harassment disappeared. Why? I threatened to fucking sue them. I'm like, it's not sexual harassment. We weren't talking about sex. There is more than one way to get AIDS. Blood transfusion, sharing needles. But the point is, there's so many other ways you could get AIDS, and it's ridiculous to suggest that having a sore throat on only one side of your throat means you got AIDS. So if I would have said, oh, must be zombaids. Careful, you might start craving human flesh. Yeah, I could have said any other number of diseases, and if it wasn't the disease that her friend caught from getting raped, she got HIV. Like, it's shitty that happened to your friend, but let's fucking keep it in perspective here. You've said all manner of shit to me that's terribler than that. And then for them to claim that's sexual harassment. We weren't talking about sex. Well, it was in her throat. And how else does a person get AIDS? I didn't say she sucked a dick. I just joked that she's got full-blown AIDS.
I don't even think you can get AIDS from sucking a dick.
Well, from what I've heard...
I suppose if there's ejaculation into your throat, maybe, but...
he's got to get into an open wound. Anyway, some gay guy that used to work security at Target joked about how his friends at the gay 90s would say, you knew you blew a guy with HIV if you felt fluish the next day. I don't know if that actually means anything, but it's a joke. But the point is, we need these jokes to kind of blow off steam. But now guys aren't even wanting to be around women. And I work almost exclusively with women.
Very few women where I work.
Yeah, and you're lucky
Mainly
because
in the office.
Odds are that the guys aren't going to rat on each other for inappropriate humor.
I know a couple of the girls in the front office won't either.
And by the way, with that thing, with me making the age joke, I had also told the infamous story of my mom at the grocery store with my dad years ago, asking him to bag the groceries. And then my dad's like, well, feed some more stuff down the conveyor at me. And she said, I was always told it was, I'm not your nigger. But then later she changed it to saying, well, no, I said, who was your nigger last year? Either one of them's hilarious when you think about the fact that my dad looked behind her and there was a large black man. And then my dad just went, shrugged his shoulders, and walked out and left her.
Yep, I'm leaving her.
I told that story, but I said N-word instead of nigger. I also talked about how, you know, in high school, people used to call each other gay. Or how, you know,
the Beast
and I would joke
like,
about...
you're totally gay.
Yeah. The
Beast
and I and other people in the past would call somebody a Jew. Derogatorily.
She called you a Jew.
Yeah, I was citing referentially past instances of other people using racist and anti-Semitic slurs, right? So my boss peppered that in there too. You made defamatory comments about a race and religion of people. I'm like, no, I didn't. Well, you spoke discriminatorily. I'm like, no, I didn't. I told a story and used the term N-word because it came out of my mom's mouth. Because the person I was telling the story to, I said I came from a much different upbringing than she did. She's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, one, you're adopted. You're from another country. I don't know about your family, but my mom's pretty much a closet racist and doesn't want to admit it or even realize it. Then I told that story. She's like, you got another example? So she's asking me for these examples. This is why it's such a fucking minefield to even talk to anybody or trust anybody anymore. And you wonder why people are buried nose deep in their phone, fucking just trying to get on Tinder and find a fuck sleeve or ordering sex dolls. They don't want to interact with humans anymore. So guys around the office, they're petrified to talk to women.
Yep.
You need to realize, ladies, that if a guy goes, oh, I like your dress, right? That's not sexual harassment.
Yeah, it doesn't mean he's going to hold you down.
But if he goes, I like your dress, it really accents your figure. Yeah, it's borderline. And if he goes a step further and goes, that's an awesome dress, but I'd love to see what you look like underneath it. Ding.
Ding. That's a winner right there.
Obvious. There's a chick at my office now who has told me multiple times when I've worn flannel shirts, I own many of them, and we're almost into flannel season now.
Yeah, it's getting exciting.
She says to me, I really like that color on you. It looks good. I'm like, thank you. I was like, okay, well, I've had inclinations that she might hold sexual, lusty feelings towards me.
Every guy thinks that when they get complimented by a woman. Well,
this woman's made comments to other coworkers about me. Comments that she didn't want brought up so that when they mention my name about something, like, oh, well, tell them about that other dream you had. She's like, shut up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm putting pieces together. I'm not trying to sound like an arrogant fucking prick.
Well, I think any woman that compliments me, I'm just like, thanks. You're full of shit, but thanks.
Yeah.
Like,
but, if a guy's like, oh, did you do something different with your hair? Just say, yeah, I styled it different. I got it cut. I got it dyed. I got it something. He's not like, hey, nice haircut. I want to fuck your tits. Like, let's not blow it out of fucking proportion now. Because what women have done is essentially they have weaponized Me Too. And it's like they're trying to make men obsolete. They're trying to get back at us for all this history of poor behavior by men in the workplace for the decades prior to now, and now every man must pay for it, even though we're not the ones that perpetrated the shit 20, 30, 40, 50 fucking years ago. You get these stories where one of the stories from this article is a guy who a female coworker, he was walking by her in a tight space, and he just said, excuse me. As she was backing up, he put his hand up so that she wouldn't bump into him. His hand grazed her shoulder, and she said he touched her inappropriately. And he had to fight with a union to get the company to take his claim seriously that there was nothing sexual about it. He wasn't trying to touch her. This is how bad it's gotten.
Yeah, and eventually these women, they can have anybody to hang out with them except for find the biggest douchebag they can find, because that's the only one who's willing to talk to him because he's willing to risk it.
What they have essentially done with the Me Too swinging so far to the other direction now is created a culture of self-designed social isolationism. Guys don't want to talk to you. Guys don't want to be in an elevator with you. Like, imagine you had to get into an elevator with a woman by yourself. Now, that act seems innocuous. But you get in, and the next thing you know, she goes to the security of the building and says, you tried to grope her.
Yeah.
And instantly, you're the bad guy. Nobody wants to take into consideration the fact that she could be making it up. And I don't understand why.
Because if you don't believe a woman, you're a sexist pig.
But that's the thing, is if somebody goes, oh, somebody stabbed me, the cops are going to look at you and go, where's the stab wound? Where's the mark? Where's the scar? Where's the what? Where's the proof?
That's just one thing. There's physical proof there. This is just, like you said, it's weaponized. It's just, I want to ruin this person. I feel like I was violated. I don't even know where to go with this other than this is fucking psycho.
Well, I think a comparable hypothetical would be your next door neighbor is a family of blacks, and they accuse you to the police of riding by in your car while they're having a get-together with their family members out in the yard. Like, he drove by and shouted, happy birthday, niggers, and threw a banana peel. There's no banana peel, and you can't prove that you didn't say it because nobody's got it on tape.
They got to prove that I said it.
So the cops are now going to take a report saying this is what was claimed. There was no substantial evidence to support this, so we didn't go any further with it, because that's a fucking hate crime. You throw a banana at a black person, holy shit.
Murder.
How about an apple?
No, that doesn't say hold the same connotation.
Yeah, so then those would hurt more. Not saying I want to throw apples at black people. I'm just saying.
Okay, so let me just tick a few boxes here. How many females are at work?
At mine?
Yeah. Like a handful?
Front office, I don't know, maybe 2 dozen.
2 dozen.
Maybe.
That's more than I would have assumed. But I'm just willing to bet that you have drastically different interactions with them versus guys you work with.
It was probably 18 or so. Most of them, yeah, they're very polite and everything like that. But there's 2 of them that seem to, like it. Like, they come back to where we are, and they dish the shit out, and they take it back, and I mean, they seem to have fun with it. So I think these are women that actually know how this stuff works, and that there's nothing personal about it. There's no desires. There's no underlying hatred or
sexual
overtones or anything. It's just coworkers flinging shit at each other.
Yeah. Well, let's say now you had a female coworker that you heard at lunch with a bunch of guys telling some rather raunchy jokes. Would you have a problem with that?
Nope.
But would you feel comfortable making similar jokes around them?
Once I heard them doing it, yeah.
Hypothetically, how would you feel if they turned around 6 months later and then held that very conversation against you?
Same as you. I'd be like, excuse me? You were saying this shit first.
Oh, but they don't care because it's all about propriety in the workplace and uber professionalism.
Oh,
and
okay.
you can't talk like that.
If I go, she goes.
Well, it's funny because the blowback from the thing with me is my boss put out a memo the next time we talked about personal boundaries, and he basically flat out said, don't talk about your personal lives to each other. Like, he just wants us to be robots and just go, hi, how are you? How was your shift?
That's impossible.
What are things
tried
going?
That. It doesn't work.
What is the weather? Your shoes are black and so are mine.
Those lights are on. We should turn them off.
Yeah, it just...
Lights out, bitches.
Well, this article now clearly is written by either a woman and or a feminist, because it's like, it's worth noting, I think, that the Harvard Business Review article previewing the study's 2019 results is headlined, The Me Too Backlash. You see that phrase a lot, and that's framing subtly implies that Me Too went too far, that a backlash is only natural. It's yet another form of victim blaming, another way to quietly put women back in their place.
Oh, yeah, definitely a fucking feminazi here.
That's not what it means. No, it's because now every fucking man who's ever accused of anything is guilty right out of the gate. You might as well just pull your fucking dick out and run around slapping people on the wrist at it, asking them, what time's it say on your watch? Because at least then you're getting your fucking money's worth.
Yeah, no shit.
You know?
Go big or go home.
Like, find a rubber stamp somewhere with, like, you normally would put, like, a return address on envelopes, and fucking roll your nuts on it and make like a hairy gumball press on a piece of paper and then hand it to somebody and be like, Rorschach test, what do you think this is? Get your fucking money's worth. Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It? Podcast show for the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
And I'm number 1 fan Tim.
And that's the end.